Ohio and Kentucky Bar Associations require we give the addresses of the attorneys on the show, so here you go. First up, Jennifer Lawrence, the Lawrence Firm, 606 Philadelphia Street in Covington, 41011. Don Moore, the Moore Law Firm, 1060 Nimitzview Drive, Cincinnati, 45230-232-2000, or you can get all the information at Fox19.com. Welcome back to More Law on this Monday morning. We have a couple more calls we're trying to get to today. I think first up we have Jacqueline in Grant County. Jacqueline, it sounds like a hospital you went to didn't set some bones correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us a little more about what happened?
At first it was my grandson. He broke the long bone, the bottom bone next to his hand, in his right arm. They misset the bone, and when they took the cast off of it, he had a huge lump on his arm. His father took him to a private physician who informed him that they might have to re-break the arm and reset it. But first they tried putting it in another cast to see if they could bring the bone more in alignment. It has not. So he's going to suffer. He's 12. And then about a month later, I broke my finger on my right hand, was treated at the same hospital, and they misset my finger. I had to go to a private physician in Lexington. They sent me and put another cast on it. They tried stretching it. They worked with me for about 2 months, and now my only option is surgery.
Okay.
On my
Does she
knuckle.
have any other options, Jen? What would you suggest?
Well, I think one thing that you could do is you could get the medical records and have them reviewed by an orthopedic surgeon or a surgeon who deals with broken bones, which typically is an orthopedic surgeon. But unfortunately, when we break our bones, there are times in which they're very difficult to set, and you can have problems, and it doesn't necessarily mean that anybody did anything wrong.
You know, that's especially true with pediatrics. A lot of times when they're setting a pediatric bone, they have to anticipate the length because they can get unequal length as the kid grows. A 12-year-old boy is still growing. So that might have something to do with the arm issue. Probably not a lump, but it could. But as Jennifer aptly put it, it's not an exact science, and as long as the doctor or hospital did what was reasonably expected of a doctor or hospital, they don't have any liability.
Okay. Let's go to Vernon in Cincinnati, I believe. Oh, nope, I'm wrong. We have too many calls to get to. I believe it's Kim in Indiana. Go ahead.
What is the statute of limitations for filing a medical malpractice lawsuit in the case of a misdiagnosis or a misdiagnosis?
Is it always 1 year?
Typically it's 1 year from the date that you knew or should have known, the date you discovered that the negligence occurred.
Okay. And Don, you say that it almost breaks your heart sometimes because people come in and maybe it's just over a year, but there's just nothing you can do.
It happens a lot, and one of the things that we had one caller talk about a little bit before is, or we've had people talk about, is when a person's actually killed. And if that's the case, then you've got actually a second shot, perhaps, if there was really negligence and they caused the death. A, it's 1 year in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana for medical malpractice, but B, it's 2 years for a wrongful death. So if they caused the death, it's not, the whole cause of action doesn't stay intact. You lose some of the rights at the expiration of the 1 year, but you still have other rights. So it's best to have a legal professional look at it. As Jen mentioned a moment ago, and she said it exactly the way I understand it, and that is sometimes it's date of discovery. If somebody leaves something in you and you don't know it's there, or there's no way you could have known until someone tells you, then the statute may not start to run until you actually discover it.
Okay. Now, Jen, we just have a couple minutes to wrap up, but just for people, what kind of information should people just have? I mean, you have callers with a lot of different issues going on. I mean, if somebody's considering medical malpractice suit, what do they need to come to your office with? What do they need to know?
They need to have their medical records. They need to have their medical bills or their EOBs, those statements the insurance companies send. Any information, if they kept a diary of the events that occurred, that's always helpful. And so as much information that they have when they come initially, it helps process the case and to get the case analyzed by physicians to see if they do have a case.
Because I think for some people it's hard to look back. I mean, it's easy, you know, that makes me think, okay, if something's happening, I'll keep a diary. But to think of that, to have the foresight of that, I wouldn't think that.
Details, details, details. Just exactly what Jennifer said. In the diary, any details, who, what, where, when, the date, the time, who said what. The more you write down, the easier it's going to be for a lawyer to evaluate it.
Okay.
Well put.
And next week we have all about injuries.
We do, and that's kind of Katie bar the door. Any type of an injury case that a person would have, they're welcome to call us, and we're going to do our best to answer their questions.
Okay. Thank you, Dawn. Jennifer, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for
I hope
having
that you'll
me.
come back.
Absolutely.
I heard we're going to ask your dad to come in one day too.
We need to get him on.
All right, and happy birthday again to Savannah.
Oh,
Let's throw that out there.
Thank you, yep.
All right. Thank you for joining us here on More Law. We will see you next Monday morning at 9:30. Have a great week.